Hey everyone, I'm Shalini from AppLogic, and we are back with our product conversations. Today I have Aastha Yadav from Bolt, one of the fastest growing startups of the world, with presence in over 45 countries. Hi Aastha, how are you?
Hi, Shalini. I'm doing good, and thank you for having me over on this call.
I am
Um,
delighted to have you here. Yeah. So before we start, would you like to introduce yourself a bit for our audience?
sure. My name is Aastha. I can start a bit from the beginning of where my education was because I think Shalini and I were just chatting about it before. I studied fashion from NIFT, Mumbai. And then weird career progression, I moved on to do an MBA from IIM Calcutta. And while I was in IIM Calcutta, I realized that there's a profession called management consulting while being in the business school. And somehow ended up in Bain and Company, and I did management consulting for around 2.5 years. And while I was doing that, I was inclining towards having a bit more autonomy. And I actually having to see my work actualize and have results. And at the same time, still have access to high level strategy projects and also manage high level stakeholders. So I moved to Bolt because it kind of felt like it was the best of both worlds. So to describe a bit about my role at Bolt, I look after Bolt's global product strategy. And what that means is Bolt has around 5 domains, I would say. One is ride hailing, which is on-demand ride hailing, something like the likes of Ola and Uber. Then we have food delivery, like Swiggy, Zomato, as you say. We also have grocery delivery. We have a grocery delivery which is aggregated across, different like grocery players who are aggregating on the platform. But we also have our own cloud stores. And I think the last one is micromobility and car sharing, which falls under our rentals vertical, which is e-scooters, e-bikes, and then we have a free floating car sharing model in one of the markets. And looking after optimizing growth and maximizing value for both users and ourselves is something what product strategy is, I would say, but only one part, because another part is also at the same time identifying a lot of other potential opportunities where it makes sense for Bolt to venture into, also understanding what is the attractiveness there, what is our capability, what is the gap in that capability, how do we bridge those gaps, and just focus a lot on return on investment and creating value for the user at the same time.
Awesome. Okay, so tell me a little bit more about Bolt because, yeah, we know that it is still operational in 45 countries. But what exactly is the stage? Where are you right now as a product, as a company?
As a company, I would say we are still at like a scale up stage. We are growing year over year, 2x, 3x. We are launching multiple verticals. We are launching more markets. We are expanding in the teams, in terms of teams as well. So, like I said, we have four or five offerings that we have right now across our different domains. And we are operating in around 47 countries. Could be 48. I checked 47 was 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
So our focus markets are Central Eastern Europe, and also Africa, but that doesn't constrain us. We also have some markets in Western Europe like UK, Germany, France, Portugal, Spain. I can think of a few more, and also some markets which are outside these geographies, which is Thailand, or some markets in Central America like Mexico, and a couple of others.
Okay. So, as a global product strategy manager, what are your top 3 priorities?
One is regularly monitoring where are the possibilities of improving product for our existing domains. And our domains have multiple stakeholders. For example, on the ride hailing side, we have rider as well as the driver. On the food delivery side, we have the eater, we have the restaurant provider, we also have the courier who's delivering your food. On the grocery delivery side, especially if we have a cloud store, you also need to have some sort of a warehouse management system. When you talk about micromobility, of course, there's the rider side, but there's also something that the operational team needs as a product when they're doing maintenance and collection and servicing of these vehicles. So there's a lot of products that we have right now. And my goal, like I wouldn't say everyday goal, but in general, the goal is to optimize and reduce friction as much as we can for our stakeholders and users and drivers and everybody. And second thing, also finding new opportunities, new potential areas, what are the new trends going on in the industry. And I think the third one would be there was no existing strategy team in Bolt. And in my past 2 years, I'm like also starting to build that strategy team. Now, by the end of next month, I will have 5 people in my team, including a couple of associates, analysts, and just research analysts as well, data analysts and research analysts. So those are currently my top 3 priorities.
Okay, got it. So, as you said, there are various domains, food, grocery, and mobility. So, when it comes to the users, what are the biggest challenges since you are, working on optimizing and minimizing frictions? So, what do you see the major difference between, the market, the users? Let's say, if you are working on a food audience, and then there is grocery, a perishable item, and then there is warehouse and everything involved. So what are the major, let's say one major challenge while catering to different audience? Yeah.
Okay, I can give you a couple of examples of
Yeah.
how certain internal or external factors can play 180 degrees in the different products that we have. So the first example I can give, based out of Europe, weather is not great half of the time. I know people in India are enjoying their sun and it's like sometimes too hot, but you can get inside the AC. But I can tell you here, sometimes it goes up to, like, especially in the Nordics, it goes up to -20, -30,
Yeah.
which is a great time for food delivery because, well, people want to stay inside and order food and don't want to go outside. And maybe a good time for like ride hailing as well. But at the same time, it's not safe to operate our micro mobility scooters and rentals operations there because nobody wants to drive a scooter like in a -20-degree
Right.
weather. So that is something I would say, like, that plays out 180 degrees in different
Right.
cases. Another thing could be, let's talk about our favorite topic, COVID.
Yeah,
So
that was my next question, actually.
was it going to be COVID? So as soon as COVID hit, I think in general, all the markets just stopped, right? But it also gave a huge headroom for the delivery vertical in like overall to explode. If you see the likes of new grocery delivery players that have come up in Europe, Gorillas, Flink, Getir, all of these guys are delivering groceries under 15 minutes. And I think a lot of this actually became popular and was pushed by COVID-19.
Yeah.
People were staying homes and delivery was their best friend. So it worked great for the delivery vertical, but not as much for the ride hailing. At the same time, what we did was we launched a different category of ride hailing, which was a protect category, where we helped our drivers add a screen between themselves and the riders. So, people can still feel safe and protected when they're taking these rides. It helped a bit, but not a lot, because where do people have to go if everything is shut? That is another problem as well. Although it was quite great for our scooters, because in the markets where there was no curfew, like things were shut down, but you can still go out for a walk or do other things. Scooters worked great. People felt safe. They weren't in contact with anybody else. There was safe distance maintained. It was fresh air. They didn't have to stay inside their house anymore where they were already becoming claustrophobic. So in general, like micro mobility also worked great. Well, during summers. Winters, again, it gets too cold.
So, viewing the shifts that have happened in recent past and we are still, tiding through it, I would say. So how do you see the future, like not just ride or food or grocery? It is about on-demand delivery and mobility. How do you see the future in terms of technology, in terms of these shifts that have happened recently? How do you see the future of on-demand businesses? Yeah.
Are you saying the recent shifts because of COVID
Yeah.
or anything else as well?
Yeah, because the habits and the concerns of end users have changed, and we still don't know are we out of it yet or not. And then we have also seen in recent times that technology advanced and took the front seat, and it came out as a boon to the world. It helped us out, whether it was delivery or as you said that micro mobility was working more because people liked it to stay out more because they were always inside. So there have been some shifts in habits and culture. So technologically also we have seen many companies advanced a bit. So how do you see in general, like what more changes you expect in future?
So I think one thing, like I will take a step back and just to give like a better context, I will try to set up the stage saying e-commerce and delivery space in India has been way matured and way better developed than it has developed in European markets.
Okay, that's nice.
The reason being their legacy systems were working just fine, right? India needed disruption because there was nothing else like as much or as well happening right now. People actually needed change. People needed to get things going for them. And that's why a lot of technology disruption happened in India already. I think in 2014, 2015, we had Big Basket, we had Grofers, who were already doing grocery delivery. We had Amazon Fresh. But I think in Europe, it has been definitely different because in general, you have a pretty high, let's say, restaurant and store density per square kilometer.
Okay.
So unlike India, where like, for example, when I was staying in Mumbai to travel 5 kilometers, it took me like from car to BKC, it took me 45 minutes whenever I had to go to the office. And imagining to actually going extra mile to go buy groceries, there might be so much traffic, it might be hot, all these inconveniences, people didn't have them. Most of the grocery stores, like even big chains and supermarkets, are all over the place, restaurants as well. So they were not using delivery as much. Even if you talk about the state of e-commerce, that's a big question. Like Europe doesn't have a very matured same-day delivery sort of e-commerce even yet. So I think pandemic changed that. It was probably the sudden vacuum of demand created where people now stuck at home and they needed delivery. They couldn't just walk by to the next door. And it's a habit forming thing. We are humans and we love to be lazy. You give us one chance to not do something, we will prefer not to do it. Yeah. And if they didn't have to go buy groceries and all these things, like there's a lot of money being fueled in terms of investments in this space as well. So more and more startups coming with a lot of discounted value proposition for the customers, getting them groceries in 10 minutes. Right? People are getting used to it. It's addictive. Saturday morning, if I realize there's nothing in my refrigerator, I would rather just order something. And we only see that it's a habit forming thing. People order more and more, and their frequency usage increases over time. So I think in general, what I can talk about as in people's behavior, yes, there's going to be higher consumption of delivery, especially in Europe. And I'm guessing more in India as well, for the market that wasn't penetrated yet has been penetrated now because people had this necessity to get things. And the second thing I would talk about is from the supplier side. If you think about that, also changes a lot of things because a lot of restaurants these days realize that they did not actually need a front end, at least during the pandemic. And they kind of became these dark kitchens on their own because there was no footfall happening. It kind of did give them, I think, an opportunity to invest their resources right. So a lot of, I would see, suppliers either started opening dark kitchens or dedicated a big capacity of their existing kitchens into deliveries. So that is something that also changed as well. And I think it requires high capital expenditure if you are increasing your kitchen capacity to dedicated delivery as well as front, because you already had a front. I think it's also a paradigm shift on the restaurants and the grocery side, that these guys are now more prepared for doing deliveries. It's not just about like, that the customer who's on like dining in with you is the priority, but everybody and anybody who can access you through a marketplace like is also a priority for you.
Yeah, right. Got it. So how do you think is the role of real-time engagement is, I mean, in making the overall user experience better? Because with on-demand businesses, what they are looking forward to is like instant, fastest. So at the same time, there is a advantage of, being able to connect with your driver, your delivery guy. So real-time communication is the key why people probably like this model. So how do you see this? I mean, how is this going to grow more, and where is it right now? What is the role?
So let me talk about both the upside and the downside of it. The upside, I would say, yes, having a real-time communication from it. Let's just take this situation in perspective. You ordered a cab, it says it's 20 minutes away. There is a likelihood that either you would cancel it because it's too far,
Yeah,
or the driver, and you might think that because the driver is going to cancel it, it's too far, right? Or the driver might cancel it thinking you might cancel it, it's too far. There's like a lot of game theory happening there,
right.
right? And the one way to actually solve for it is that you just communicate with your driver, right? If you let your driver know, hey, I'm not canceling, please, I'm waiting for you, please come here. I have an airport, like I have a flight in 30 minutes, there's no other cabs, please, like, please reach out. Maybe you don't have to beg so bad. That was my personal experience.
Yeah,
But if
mine
you just
too.
let them know, yours,
Yeah.
if you just let them know, I think they themselves are more likely to actually come and pick you up.
Yeah,
Uh, I think I definitely do this a lot right now for sure, because whenever I'm taking rides and I see if the ETA is longer than 10 minutes, I just text the driver, hey, I'm here, right? So the driver knows that I'm not canceling on him. And I think, well, I can't like say data specific, data specific answer to this, but there is definitely higher retention, higher rate of completion, and just I think better conversion or rides finishing kind of thing whenever the drivers and the riders are interacting.
okay.
So communication is the key, guys.
The downside is
I would say, okay, so the downside is the driver is most likely driving, and then you expect him to actually check his phone, which I would say sometimes might not be safe, especially in high traffic conditions, in extreme weather conditions.
yeah,
You are maybe then expecting a reply because you said something and then the driver is not responding. Oh my God, he might cancel. And then you cancel it anyway because the driver couldn't respond given he was driving and his phone was like probably on a stand on the side, and he didn't want to actually deviate his focus.
okay.
So safety wise, I think it's a bit of a problem, but there is an easy solution of just easily probably templatizing some of the regular conversations that are happening. So you just add templates of like quick responses that the drivers can also write, tap on it. It's like, I'm on my way, and people being like, I'm here. So
Yeah.
that definitely helps. And we have that on, like in our app.
Yeah. So any recent features that were introduced to drive user engagement on your platform?
Yeah, I can actually think of something that was very recent. All of us are doing this end of year wrap of 2021. Bolt also did an end of year wrap 2021. I think it was very interesting because it wasn't just about telling people like, oh, how many rides you took, scooter rides you took, what is your favorite dish that we saw, or what was your favorite restaurant to order from. But we also helped them understand how they were helping us being sustainable or overall themselves being sustainable. For example, one of the things that we do, especially for our European rides, is they're completely carbon neutral. So we carbon offset them. And one of the metrics that users could also see is how much carbon offsetting their rides did. So riding with us actually helped them benefit that as well. And there were a lot of other environmental factors and other things that we also added, and people could share them as stories, and we saw that engagement a lot as well. I'm actually checking if there's like any other interesting things that was added here. Okay, I think some other things also around how overall, at least in Europe, we see a strong shift of cities becoming anti-car. So they're moving more and more towards being like either electric cars or micromobility, and they do not want cars in the city centers. They only would promote or encourage people to use electric bikes or electric scooters. And I think that is something also that we are helping cities to do, because we have, I think, over 100 and something cities. I think 146, I checked a month ago or something, but probably like 20 more cities since then where we are operating our micromobility service.
This sounds amazing. Wow. Okay. So what has been your personal wins, in terms of improving experience on the platform? Yeah, as a manager.
So like I said, initially, I'm mostly working with the strategy part. So if I had to divide product work, right, in general, the product work, let's say 4 stages. The first stage is validating the business opportunity, also the user opportunity, defining what is the value proposition for the user. Does it make sense that it's a win-win opportunity for the user and the business? Because there is no zero-sum game that you can play and win. At the end, somebody else will come and disrupt your landscape because you are not providing user the values that they deserve. So it has to be a win-win where it's like, a positive for both the sides. So that's the first part. The second part is actually about designing the product. The third part is about working with the engineers and doing the actual product execution and development. And the last part would be about launching the product and then, monitoring the metrics and making sure that we have a trajectory that we want to follow, a target trajectory. And if we're not following it, how can we course correct it? So we reach that final point, or like the goal that we have. I, as product strategy manager, I work more on the first and the fourth level of product work. So if I had to say what were like the key personal wins for me or like impactful decisions, I would say it's a bit more still future coming. I probably cannot disclose it because we are finding a lot of new opportunities where we can add more value to the users. And I think there's a couple of things that our users, at least in our geographies, will soon see, like new projects that we've been working on. So I would say that's one. Another one is also, actually, those are two big key ones. And if I'm thinking another one is, in general, actually, just scaling the effort from one person army to like now going to be 5 people, which helps the entire product team and in general the entire organization to work more efficiently and make better informed decisions every day.
Right. Okay, let's talk about the network effects on customer acquisition. How's that? How does that work?
So I think network effects is a very interesting topic. In general, there's a new book by Andrew Chan also that came out. I think it's called the Cold War or something the Cold. I forgot. But I think that book is also talking about leveraging network effects. I haven't read it yet. It's on my reading list for the coming year because it was recently launched, I think a couple of weeks ago or something. So network effects, I think, especially for companies like Bolt, where we have a lot of product lines and domains, is very important, because the reason we want to build and add more offerings to our users is that that they already have some sort of an understanding of the brand, some connection with the the brand perception that they have, the visibility that they have, the trust that they have with the brand. I think that is something that helps us like leverage network effects a lot. And that is just talking about, let's say, having a core product and adding a new offering on top of it, with the similar set of customers that are already there, gives us a very high synergy, because our cost of acquiring new customer is lesser. We do not have to do all the groundwork that we did in the first place, right? That is one. On the other hand, if you think about geographical expansion is something where you wouldn't like, I have 5 domains, doesn't mean I'm just going to find a market and like push all those products into one market. I think there's a way to prioritize what product works the best for you to go into a market. Maybe for some markets, you want to get in first with micro mobility. And then you can add ride hailing to it. And that's how that like your network of having a micro mobility or another offering, which was already aligned with certain markets' needs, helps you create a step forward towards adding your other products, adding your more offerings. So making people more and more comfortable, having similar customer base, and also at the same time, if there's sometimes similar supply base, it helps you leverage those synergies as well. So if we talk about an example, I would say for example, drivers for ride hailing can also serve as couriers for food delivery, especially when it's extreme weather. Not everybody feels comfortable delivering food on a cycle. So if the same drivers who have cars, they actually are already more comfortable delivering food during extreme weather conditions, they can also help us. And yeah. Is there anything else that I didn't cover?
Yeah, no, I got it. So every product in e-commerce has their own challenges, be it a startup or as you said, in India, e-commerce and this market has matured, but then there is competition. You have to win users' trust. Similarly, in Europe, as you said, it's not that mature yet, but then again, you have your own challenges to win users, right? Winning their trust. So what are your challenges at Bolt? Yeah.
I think
let's talk about this in context of a market that's not mature yet. What would be the challenges of that market?
Yeah, sure. I think I can pick up one example. It's not Bolt specific. I think it's in general just the space landscape, on demand mobility space specific. It's something like safety issues, right, for riders and drivers. That is something that I think a lot of companies are facing a problem with right now. Every company does a driver verification to make sure their users feel safe. But often we also see in certain geographies, it's not only the riders who are not safe, but also the drivers who are not safe. And how are we protecting our drivers? At the end, the drivers have to submit their papers. They need to get verified, but any user can just come in and take a ride, right? Of course, I'm not saying it's some problem that is completely been solved, but we are working towards how we can verify more and more of our users. Also, at the same time, following data privacy is a big thing in Europe, GDPR. So following, I'm not saying it's a challenge that we have solved, it's a challenge that we're still facing, but we want to solve it, which is also making our drivers feel from the rider's side. So there's less and less violence or any sort of unexpected activity for the driver, making them feel unsafe because who are the riders on the platform.
Okay, that sounds good. Let us tell a little bit about your day-to-day life. I mean, being the strategy manager. Of course, I assume it is hell busy, crazy. So how do you plan, manage, how your day-to-day life is?
How my day-to-day life is. I think I can talk a bit more in context, like week to week life, because I think day to day is just so dynamic. Like I don't think what I did today in the first 3 hours of my work was exactly the same thing that I did yesterday. But I can try. I think there's a bit more uniformity in terms of weeks. I think this is a habit that I picked up when I was in consulting, and I started front loading my weeks. So I would try to maximize the things that I can do, like actual sitting down, thinking work, creating output, um, and just doing like, sitting down and getting like churning out work, crunching numbers, everything. So I try to do most of it in the first 3 days of the week, Monday, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays. So I am fine even extending my day a bit longer. Um, I would try to minimize the number of meetings I have during the first like 2 or 3 days of the week, because I like, for personally, I would hate to admit it and I would never say this, but I am kind of like a morning person. And I don't mean morning as in like I have to wake up at 5 a.m.
Okay.
But my mental capacity is at max right after I have woken up. So even if I wake up like at whatever time, 9 a.m., 8 a.m., 10 a.m., 5 p.m., doesn't matter. I think I feel I'm the most productive in the first 3-4 hours. So in general, I try to like get all my thinking and creative work and actual work done in the beginning of the day. In the later half, if I have to do like some just report monitoring, writing some actual like, reports and doing some communication with different people, like written communication, I would do that. Meetings if required, of course, that's fine. But I think the later half of my week looks more meetings filled. So for example, Wednesday second half, which is right now, starting Wednesday second half until I would say Friday, it's meetings after meetings. So a lot of the work that has been done in the first half of the week with my team, myself, would try to, I think, sync up more. We have 5 domains. All of them have different like strategy calls. They all have different operational calls. And there's like just a lot of calls in general, especially sometimes if we are working remotely.
Okay, that's great. So, my final question that I ask everybody every PM. So, what are your favorite tools like on a daily basis? What helps you juggle through all the activities? So much of, strategy and all. What are your tools?
Mm, great question. Google Calendars is my favorite. I have my entire, I think, life, doesn't matter, personal things, not things, everything is there on my Google Calendars. Uh, it's
Quite
including like,
sorted, I must say, quite sorted.
I can, yeah, like if you want, I can share like a quick snapshot. Hold on. Oh, I don't have screen sharing options, but it's generally like I would put everything on my Google Calendar. If I have to do a certain amount of work, I would block that time on my calendar and I would try to be strict with it. It's hard,
Hmm.
but I would generally just even have dinner plans or weekend plans with my friends or going on a vacation. I will add everything to my calendar. Sometimes I get these things from my friends where they want to plan a dinner and then I send them a Google Calendar invite. They're like, why are you being so formal? I'm like, I'm sorry. I just want to have one source of truth about what my day or the week is going to look like instead of
Yeah,
going.
that sounds amazing. This is something I heard for the first time, but wonderful.
I color code them generally. I color code them. Like all my workouts look red, all my meetings look blue, all my personal focus time that I need to spend and do work looks yellow. Some like things that I need to like read up on looks purple. So I try to color code it as well. So it's a bit more visual and easy for me to understand. Um, I guess what else tool do I use? Other than Google Calendar for like we have Slack. I also use OneNote. I also picked this up as a habit of taking notes when I was consulting.
Yeah.
It's a same habit. of still taking notes in OneNote. I use a lot of well, I have two pens. One is black and one is red. And I become anxious if I don't have one of the two, because I need to write everything down that I'm doing. And then I need to
God.
read,
Oh
there's like
God.
a
Really?
status of I've been doing this, I think, for past I don't know, 4 years now.
Okay.
Well, funny story. My day one at Bain, my manager asked me to do like four things, and I forgot like one thing. And he wasn't impressed in the evening because I was just like casually, yeah, four things, first day, who cares? I'm gonna remember them. But I felt really embarrassed at the end of the day. Like that was not good. I could just be more diligent and like, why wouldn't I write things down? And I think since that embarrassment, I have just started writing things down that I have to do with black, and then I mark their status and activity status, or like write things with red about what's the status of that thing. So it's kind of also that things that I can go back into and look at.
Amazing. So all the new PMs out there, first do your calendar management and then keep two pens with you. Yeah. At
It
least
might be
two.
too much.
At least two. Okay.
I think like
Wonderful.
everybody becomes this, like, they want to take notes on their like laptop and stuff, but there's a different satisfaction when you actually write things down in a notebook and you get to like cross
Yes.
them off.
Yes. Yes. Definitely. I also use it a lot. Okay, so that's brings me to the end of conversation. I actually enjoyed it too much, and I hope you also enjoyed it as much as I did.
Yes.
And yeah, that's a wrap.
All right. Thank you so much, Shalini, as well, for having me over. It was really nice talking to you.